This is Next Radio 2016 with Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.
Hi guys, my name is Brittany and I am from the internet, so don't throw anything at me. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how record labels, rights holders, and management companies are using the data that they collect from streaming services to target playlists on said streaming services. I think there's kind of a lot of chatter around about what the value of playlists right now across streaming services and how they really impact the amount of plays that people get and how much kind of impact it has not only across the streaming services, but into physical sales and ticket sales. It turns out that's all true, and all that information is pretty available and easy to find. But the most important thing is to start at the beginning. So what is all of this data? It turns out like there is a shit ton of it. So the average data dump just from Apple alone to a mid-sized indie record label is 100 megabytes a day. That's a comma-separated variable file. That's not fancy stuff. It's not like you're getting loads of videos and audio. That is literally just numbers in a file that comes as a .csv. Sometimes you get a PDF if you're lucky, but usually what you're getting is literally just a spreadsheet. And across the different services, you get different things back from them. So Spotify's got a kind of interesting situation where they give different data to record labels and publishers than they provide to what's called the artist portal. What you can see there is the fan insights dashboard, and that is something that's available through the artist portal. So they can go in and see these really fancy infographics with information about how people are listening to their music, what demographics they have, and those are very broken down in very granular fashion. So that's everything from like kind of age, sex, location to kind of really pinning down like to the city what people are listening and how many people are listening on a daily, hourly basis. It's incredibly, incredibly granular and incredibly detailed. Across the tracks, you can get loads of info about play counts, save data, which is key. It's important to know when your song has been playlisted and it has been kind of pushed out, that people are then saving it to their personal libraries. And that's kind of like the holy grail, right? You want to be playlisted and then saved to someone's personal library. You're getting share data, so you're finding out how people are sharing that within the DSP. So if they're using it to kind of add it to their own playlists or push it out to their friends, send it through the messaging service. You're also seeing how they're pushing it out through external shares. So if they're sharing it to Facebook, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. So now you've got all this data, and you're like, cool, thanks so much for the hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of data I have to figure out what to do with every year. How am I gonna use that to actually like do something useful? So they're doing it in kind of three ways. You're doing something active, so you're targeting playlists directly. You're doing something passive, which is you're using the data because your track's been playlisted somewhere else, and then using it as a marketing tool. So to target playlists, you obviously have to find the right playlist to target. So there's obviously thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of big playlists. So the kind of obvious metric here is things like followers. But that is what we call in startup land a vanity metric. So like it's a really big number usually, and you're like, yes, look at how many followers I have. And then you find out that actually like 4 people of the 400,000 that follow you listen to the playlist. So right now there's a kind of big push to understand how it is that people listen to the playlists that they follow. I'm talking specifically about Spotify right now. So to target a playlist, we have to figure out, okay, it may have a load of followers, but is anyone actually listening to it? So you've got to go in and use different services to help you do that. And there's a couple of companies out there that are helping rights holders figure this information out. The major record labels, some of them have their own tools to do this, and they'll kind of rank the playlists according to engagement. So be able to figure out which ones are actually kind of doing the best. So you've got a list of, let's say, 100 playlists that you know are really highly engaging. So now you're like, okay, where do I fit on this? You can then go through and use all of this information that's available to you about the playlists, which you can remove from the Spotify API. Well, remove is probably the wrong word. Pull from the Spotify API. Use that to then go, well, my song fits here. You can search for similar artists, you can search for genre, you can search for locations, and you can use that to say, okay, I've found these 10 playlists, I should get on these playlists. And now you're like, great, so I have a list of playlists. How do I find these people? Spotify used to have a really cool thing where you could just message someone. You could be like, oh, I really like your playlist about like, Sunday morning acoustic. I think it'd be really great for my folk artist. And then Spotify took that magical feature away. So now what you tend to see is people have large databases of playlist owners. They're like very highly protected. Nobody hands them out. Like if you go to someone and you're like, oh, do you think I could maybe get your spreadsheet about like who runs what playlist? They're like, no, you can do that yourself. I had to go search on like Twitter and Facebook and like literally stalk these people to figure out who they are. Once you've got that, you then realize that probably about 8 out of 10 of what you want to target is owned by Spotify. And then you're like, oh, good. Like, now I've got to go fight with that. So what tends to happen is people find the playlist they want to target, they target the independent ones they can get access to, and then they try and target Spotify as best they can, although it is very difficult to pitch Spotify's editorial team. The holy grail, or one really great thing, is if someone puts your track on a big playlist and you had nothing to do with it. You're like, that's amazing. I didn't have to do anything. Because you can then take that, go to all the other playlisters and say, dudes, did you see this? I'm getting loads of traction on like, Spotify's Friday viral hits in the Netherlands. And then this happens, and the Netherlands is big. They're actually very influential on Spotify. You can then take that and use it to kind of push your track forward. Also, using the data you have available, you can target your social ads better. So you can target your ads on Facebook, and you can target sales by using who you know is listening to your music across different services. So why do people want to do this? Well, it's got a really clear return on investment. So you know that if you invest like £400 into marketing your track across playlists, and you get X amount of plays over the next 6 months, you know exactly how much money you made, probably based on that initial thing that you did. It's really easy for a rights holder and the person in charge of a P&L to figure that out. You can really specifically target a demographic based on the information you can get, and it makes it a whole lot easier to then kind of chop and change what you're doing and figure out kind of where you get product market fit. You also get demonstrable results, and that is a graph that everyone wants to see. Oh, look, I got my track on a playlist, and now it's huge. And I can see it 24 hours later. So the data is available so quickly and so fast that everyone's just like, this is amazing. And you get that data so quickly that you know it's actionable, and you know exactly what you can do with it, and you know where you can take it. And it's basically, it's like a huge ego stroke, and it feels awesome when you actually make that happen. Quickly, on editorial versus independent. The real truth is that on any DSP, all of your top playlists are going to be owned by the DSP. So right now, if you consider going to Spotify's homepage as a kind of like, the kind of window, it's all going to be Spotify playlists, right? And the top 14 on Spotify are editorial, 15 is Billboard Music. And genre and mood playlists do really, really well as opposed to charts. And Apple Music is just like editorial central. They kind of obviously bought Beats, and that's what they got out of that. One other thing is the algorithmic playlists, which I could do a whole other kind of 40 minutes on, are making things a little bit more complicated for everyone, even with the data. Because how do you pitch an algorithm? No one really knows how to do that yet. So DSPs provide data that rights holders can use. You can use that data to target placement on different kinds of playlists. There are tools out there like Tracks2, Soundcharts, and Entertainment Intelligence that are helping rights holders make sense of that data and do better stuff with it. And the in-house editorial playlists are the influential ones. Thank you very much.
This is Next Radio 2016 with Broadcast Bionics. Innovative solutions for creative people.